So we're going to
Mhm.
see more restaurants than we normally would. We are going for little hikes so we can mix it up and be like, oh, let's do some outdoor stuff. Let's do some, new development stuff.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Walkthrough, the most underrated, valuable marketing show in real estate and podcast history. I am Eric Simon, also known as the Broke Agent, and I am joined here by my lovely co-host, Jason Cassity. Jason, welcome to the Walkthrough. How you doing?
Thanks. I want to throw something in. I was just in Raleigh this week for an event. I had
Mhm.
3 different people come up to me. They're like, "It's so weird seeing you in person. I listened to the show. I'm one of the one that leaves comments. I like the show on YouTube." We're starting to make some waves, Eric.
We're starting to make some waves. We're becoming national/international. Everybody around the world has heard
We're
of the Walkthrough. If
we're
you've
basically Joe Rogan at this point.
100%. So today we have a very special episode, Jason. And I know I say that every time, but this time I actually mean it because I'm joined here by Kathy and Graham Tracey, realtors from Reston, Virginia, who have recently blown up on social, who have gone absolutely viral in their hometown. Forget this, Jason, doing hyper local content. You
You
wouldn't
don't
believe it.
say. You don't
Isn't that
say.
unbelievable?
Does that mean it works?
I think it works, but I want to hear their story because I met them at BAM Camp, our event in Scottsdale, and they came up to me and said, "Hey, we started doing hyperlocal content because they saw, get this, Jason, Alyssa Carnot on the walkthrough, and then started replicating her content." So, Kathy, Graham, I want to kick it to you guys and just kind of hear about your content journey before we get into your actual examples. So, you've been in the business 8 years. And what was it like posting kind of at the beginning? Like what sort of content were you posting and what was working and what wasn't working? Because I think this story will be very relatable for everybody listening at home.
That's you, Kathy. You're the
Oh,
star of the social page, at least.
so I guess let's go back to I went to a social media uh, meeting with somebody, a young agent in my office, and she said, if you're not doing social media, your business will be dead in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, well, I need to, I don't want my business to be dead in 5 years, so I got to do something. So then I started learning how to actually use Instagram because it was like pick one platform. So I picked a platform and, I was so bad at it. Like I was like saying to this other agent, how do I put words on? Like, what do I do? Like, how do I add a location? Like, total newbie. I didn't get it. And then I would do stories or like I didn't know what were stories, what were reels. And I just, people would say, be authentically you. So I tried to be authentically me. And I would share stories of my clients. And one thing that I really enjoyed, and I did a lot of stories, was I liked when I went in houses, show pops of color. So I would always talk about the pops of color. So that's kind of what I was doing. And I'd get people like reaching out. Oh, I love that orange bathroom, giving me Brady Bunch vibes.
Mm-hmm.
And then
But it was kind of like all over the map, right?
Yeah.
No
throwing spaghetti at the
strategy
wall.
behind it. People liked Kathy a ton, I think, right? Anybody who knew her, her friends were on there. So it was very social in that respect, but it wasn't building an audience, right? So it was just sort
A
of
little
like,
one. We had a little
yeah,
one.
like a loyal audience, but it wasn't a
Wasn't
new
going
people. We weren't
anywhere.
bringing new people in.
But this is
Mm-hmm.
kind of the perfect spot to say you were brand new, right? Like almost starting from complete scratch, I'd say.
That's true.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, the pops
Well,
of color, it's funny what people kind of resonate with, whether it's, things you see at showings or some sort of signature series that you post to Instagram that you see kind of a lot of responses to. But so your audience wasn't growing necessarily besides your friends or people that were
Mhm.
messaging you on Instagram stories. So then if this is true, you came up to me at BAM Camp and said you started watching the walkthrough
yeah.
with Jason and myself.
We
You
had
s-
been watching for a
Yeah.
while.
So
Okay,
this is we're a husband-wife team for anyone out there who
yes.
doesn't hadn't recognized that, but, essentially, here's what happens. In the evenings, I lay on the couch, Kathy's usually cooking the food, you know, I it doesn't have to be that way, but that's the way it seems to be. And I pop on YouTube, and every Thursday, I think when you guys come on, it's almost like a given. Oh, they're on. Let's do. So we had been watching you for a while, and other gurus and other podcasts. I have always been into just absorbing everything I can about how to make the business grow and what have you. And then I teach Kathy that. She learns through osmosis because I'm watching it and so on. And suddenly, when Alyssa Cornett came on, Kathy was like, "What? Stop! I think I can do that one."
I said,
Right?
slow down, rewind. I'm like, that makes sense. I can do it.
Mhm. What was it specifically that she said? Was it just
Yeah.
the hyper local angle, or was it the way she was filming it?
I think it was the way she was filming it and her formula that she had. She wasn't always on camera. So it was like the intro, the outro, it's when you're on for an entire reel, it's like, oh, let's redo that. Let's redo that. And I was like, it just made sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got a formula to her videos, right? We've broke this down ad nauseum, so I'm not going to necessarily harp on why it's the best. But she basically shoots the hook and the call to action at the same time with her phone, and then she goes and does 15 to 25, 2-second pan shots of whatever she's talking about,
Mhm.
and then basically edits them all together, and then does a voiceover, just like on Edits app or something like that. We should do a voiceover and say, "Hey, we're at the new Chick-fil-A on First and Main." Da da da. That's all done via voiceover. So the hook, the call to action, and the voiceover are all just done on her phone, and then
Mhm.
all the stuff she takes is from her phone too. And then I think she uses a videographer editor to put it together. But it is all something that anybody watching can do. It's not like she's using a videographer to shoot all this type of stuff. It can all be done from the phone. So that's good. You're able to implement that right away if it is something you want to do.
Yeah.
And Graham, you're the one filming Kathy, correct?
Typically, yes. I mean, I think
Okay.
Kathy's done one or two on her own, like a listing video or something like that, where she says, "Hey, I'm in front of wherever. It's the best place you've ever seen," whatever kind of hook, and has done it once or twice by herself. But typically, we're going. I mean, we use it now as like our excuse to get out, right? So we're going to
Hmm.
see more restaurants than we normally would. We are going for little hikes so we can mix it up and be like, "Oh, let's do some outdoor stuff. Let's do some new development stuff. Let's do some restaurant openings." Basically, anytime we see news that's happening in the area. And I think there is definitely, and we can get into it later if we want to talk about like content mix or what have you. But what we've discovered is spotlight. A lot of people say, "Well, can you spotlight my business?" Like, no, we don't spotlight businesses. We talk about the news that's happening, right? Essentially, and we go experience the news if it's a restaurant or something like that, or we go outside the construction zone, just like Alyssa does, right? Like we're just copying her essentially.
Hmm.
And then when we've done spotlights of restaurants that are common restaurants, like they die because everybody's been there before. But the new place that just opened, then people are sharing the content. And that's the biggest thing we're seeing is like, okay, when they start sharing at a ratio of like similar to the number of likes and number of shares or more shares than likes, then we know we've got something that we call rest and viral, right? It's going to take off and we're going to see it like do better than our other content kind of thing.
Yeah, and for context, what's your Instagram page called? Because I want people to actually pull this up. What's your
Yeah, it's
handle?
at Greater Reston Living.
Okay,
So
so
it's like
let's pull this.
three
Let's
words
pull
all
this up,
jammed together.
Haley.
I've
At
been to
Greater
Reston,
Reston
actually.
Living.
Eric, have you ever been to Reston?
No, I haven't. Is
I
it
have.
nice?
I stayed in Tyson's Corner, and then I
Mhm.
did an event nearby, and then we ended up at a friend's house for dinner in Reston. Very beautiful area. Very nice.
It's lovely.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So here, I want people to understand, like, they're getting insane engagement. We're just not having random people on here that we met at BAM Camp. Their engagement is through the roof, like thousands and thousands of shares, like going ultra viral in the Reston area. And it's an amazing mix of news headlines, of carousel posts, of not business spotlights, but I guess kind of new restaurants and developments and everything that's happening. Like, this is the blueprint of what to follow in your market. And we talk about it ad nauseum because it works, right? Like if you scroll all the way down, and you don't have to do this, Haley, but I was scrolling down to their old videos, and their old videos were getting, 3 shares, 5 shares, 6 shares, if any,
Terrible.
right? And then it's not terrible. I mean, you guys were learning, but it's amazing to see the progression of content. And like, if you're watching on YouTube, look at these headlines and these thumbnails. It's F-15 fighter jet just landed. Here's why. Or new Detroit pizza, or data centers that are popping up in Reston, or the Bauman Manor development. Like, these are unbelievable thumbnails that are definitely attracting attention and getting actual clicks. I do
These
have
thumbnails give me Ken Pozek, Kyle Talbot vibes too. Have you noticed
100
that? Like they
100%.
look really good, almost like off of a YouTube thumbnail. How they're like kind of
Yes.
structured. They look really good.
Like, look at these topics: 6 new bites and shops coming to Reston and Hendon this summer. So that's a trend jack about summer and its new bites. Every spot to celebrate National Ice Cream Day in Reston and Herndon. Am I getting this
Herndon.
right? Herndon.
Yes.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. And then scroll up to the actual profile, because I want people to see what it says in the bio too. Jason, you'll love this. We're Reston real estate agents sharing cool things about the city we love. That's the Alyssa
You
Carnut
seen
line
that?
right there.
Seen that one before?
Steal it, use it. It works, because now people that are watching this, and you are doing hyperlocal content in your area, it's such an easy thing that provides context to the sort of content you're going to be posting about. And in your Instagram bio, you want to show people what they could expect from the content you're producing, not just the fact that it says 1%, top 1%, agent with real, whatever it is. And then they have a subscribe to our Reston newsletter. So I want to get into that as well. But first, I want to share some content so people could understand like the high level that this couple is working with. So let's start with a hyperlocal Reston Row bakery. And notice, Jason, the style that this emulates. Alyssa Carnut.
Oh.
The first of 2 new bakeries just opened in Reston, and we're here to find out if this French Asian influenced bakery is worth the Reston Station parking. To Leisure, next to Vita Fitness and across from the JW Marriott, is spacious and bright. The perfect place for the thousands of people who will live, work, and play at the growing Reston Station. Inside, it's pastry case heaven. Flaky croissants, Korean cream buns, and celebration ready cakes, all made fresh every day. I tried the savory spinach feta Danish, an egg custard treat, the crookie, and the almond croissant, which I'm told sells out every day, so get there early. My favorite part, everything was fresh and not overly sweet, which, in my book, is the best kind of treat. So what are you most excited to try? Let me know in the comments, and share this video with a friend who likes a treat that's not too sweet.
A little rhyme there.
Goosebumps. I'm getting hair on the back of my neck standing up on
Graham,
that one.
great
It's
job on the
perfect.
video work too. Great job.
Seriously. Yeah. I mean, and so Graham, are you conscious of what B-roll you're taking to try to have it like a cut every 2 seconds? Like, what's your thought process with how you film Kathy and what B-roll you take?
Yeah, the fun part actually is Kathy does B-roll too, right? So like
Okay,
we
great.
do, so we both go in there with our phones and we're just going, and we get different things. Like what she thinks is important is different than what I think is important sometimes, and we get a lot of overlap as well. Luckily, we do have an editor who sorts through it all and figures it all out. That was the game changer for us.
The
But
game changer.
I mean, we really spend time learning about the hooks, and you'll notice like it's a subtle thing, but in that particular one, to be so hyper local, there's a lot of agents in Northern Virginia, right? And people just spreading the love in Northern Virginia, which is Fairfax County, Loudoun County. Some of the wealthiest counties in the country are in this area. And the geographic space is just huge. You can't cover everything. But we basically cover everything in Reston. When you add little things like, is it worth the Reston Station parking? The
Mhm.
people that are living there understand the hassle of Reston Station parking. And we've tried to make sure that we're always thinking about the audience being the people who actually live in the city, in Reston and Herndon, right? It's the greater Reston area, Reston and Herndon. And we're focused on what do people who live here want to know, as opposed to, relocation buyers. Relocation buyers, they want to learn about what's the park in the place, whatever that's been around. That's fine. That's more of like a YouTube search strategy. My theory is that if it's social and we're focused on the people that are living here, the people who want to move here will find us too. because they're just looking for anything that screams out, what does that community look like? Even if we're talking to our audience that lives in Reston. So like those hooks are what we're really working on. And then like filming them, we just try different things. Like we realize more movement is usually better in the opening. So like I say, okay, let's get you walking toward the camera. Let's get you walking away from the camera. Let's try to go this direction or come at me and then turn toward the restaurant or whatever. And just working on those kinds of things. Try to time it with the music, and the music kicks in. It kicks in right when we go to the voiceover. Those little
J-
things hopefully
How
make a
great is it,
difference. I don't
Jason,
know.
just seeing another content nerd? And no offense by that, because I am a content nerd. Jason is as well. Just dissecting
I think
your
it's
own
great.
content like that is amazing because you're hitting, like, there's a reason why
Yeah.
these are going viral, right? Because it's those little details that really matter about when the music does kick in, the walk away. And I want to touch upon two things. First, you mentioned the kind of little nuance of the inside joke with the community. That's something that agents should definitely take away from this episode, is not just doing the news headline or saying, hey, there's a new restaurant here, but trying to throw in some joke like, oh, like I know everybody loves sugarfish, but you got to check out this sushi spot, right? Like anytime you could create that inside joke with the audience, they're definitely
Mhm.
more likely to share it. And then Kathy, your energy on camera is infectious. And then also, like, it shows you care about what you're talking about. Like you look like you're
Yeah.
genuinely like enjoying what you're doing, right? And that's a huge part
Sometimes
of it.
it's hard
Of
Mhm.
course.
because Graham will tell me, you need to redo that because you don't have
Mhm.
enough energy. And I'm like,
Right.
okay, there's only 100 people around me, but great. And I'm at the
Yeah,
Good,
point
good
it's
where
job,
I
producer
don't
Graham.
care.
and I'm
Yeah,
sure
it's
that that comes with time of not caring, right? I think Jason, I forgot who we had on.
Yeah.
I believe Emily McAllister mentioned this. We were like, you must have some sort of nerves when you go into these communities, or you're doing a restaurant review, or you're at a tailgate, and that kind of goes away, just like speaking nerves or anything you do. So probably the more you do it, the better it is.
Yeah. It gets
Yeah.
easier. And
Yeah.
if people like it, okay.
I think it was Alyssa, speaking of, who said on stage at BAM Camp in her talk about just being you, right? Being the authentically you, but 10%
Yes.
more. And I think
Yeah.
that that's what I'm seeing in this takeaway. It's like, that's just you and your personality with a little bit of extra flair. Cause someone
Yes.
watching, you know what I mean? Someone watching on their phone, they don't want to see someone just being themselves or a little bit dull. You got to be just a little bit extra. And that's what that was. It was just you, but 10% more.
And
Yes.
again, the music touch, you just feel like you're vibing in the video. Like when the beat drops, you feel like you're just in it for that 60-second period. Are these 60 seconds or less for the most part?
Not
D
always.
Actually,
Okay.
they tend to go up to about a minute and 30.
Yeah,
So
that
we're
one was
Got
somewhere
a
it.
little bit
between like
longer.
a minute 15, minute 30 is around where we end up. We try to keep them shorter, but there's always stuff to say.
Yeah. And so your
Yeah.
strategy is not just reels, right? So you do mix in a lot of carousels. So I want to show one. It is a carousel of spooky plans. There we go. So this is 6 spooky and fun plans in the DMV, and then it swipes to all 6 of them. So what's your strategy of going reels to carousel? Like when do you decide which one's a video versus which one is a carousel photo?
Well, so we kind of just started introducing the carousels a little bit more, sort of growing the. Our editor is really more of a communications expert person, right? So just for anybody out there who's thinking about outsourcing this kind of thing, happens to be the daughter of one of our very good friends, and she graduated from college recently and has been looking for a job. And we said, hey, let's just start it out. We knew she was artistic and creative and was in a communications major, so you know let's try doing some videos. So we started doing the video editing with her. She was doing it right from the gun, really great. We were like, this is awesome. And then we really honed in on our systems around that. And then after that, I was like, okay, well, we could do more. Let's do carousels. Let's do other things. She's even helping us out with our newsletter and some other strategies that we, got cooking for the future as we kind of grow. I mean, we kind of have to tackle one system, I call it, at a time, right? So the carousel
Mhm.
system, we're starting to figure out now, and we've been doing more and more of those. Um, Generally speaking, it's more of like, is this conducive to a video, like with that formula? if it's not one where you can sort of say, "Hey, I'm about to check out whatever," and then do a bunch of B-roll and then do an outro, it doesn't make sense for a video. We should just maybe try to repurpose that for a carousel. Things
Hmm.
like the ones you showed. Like, how do you really in- do a video about those events unless you're like at one of the events or
Hmm.
something? I guess you could, and then you could say, and by the way, there's these five other events, but that
It wouldn't
doesn't
work.
usually make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, six
Um,
spooky spots is much easier if you're doing a listicle to do it as a carousel than you would as an actual video. I think that makes complete sense.
yeah.
Yeah, you could break down and do 6 separate videos, right? And
Yep.
go do
Yeah.
that. But I think having the carousel in there is just
Mhm.
checks a lot of the boxes, especially for stuff like this, where it could be 6 things happening on the same day, same weekend, where then you can't go to all 6 things. So it's perfect.
Yeah.
You mentioned your
The funny
newsletter,
thing is
so yeah,
sometimes,
go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna one other thing on that one was just the one thing we've noticed about the videos too is there's like some signature events that happen in the Reston area. And we thought like, oh, these are gonna blow up. Everybody's gonna want to know about the art festival that we have at the Reston Town Center, or everybody's gonna want to know about the concert series that we have all summer long. They die. I don't know
Hmm.
why. I think it's mostly because they already have a resource to go find that information, right? Or they're already going to these places, and they're well known in and not news to people. So it, like, speaks back to the idea of like, even though it seems like it would be the a hit thing to show or do, nobody shares it because they all already do it. So
Hmm.
it's just learning moments like that that we've been discovering along the way that somehow our events don't work as well as, like, if it were a new event, I think it would work. But if it's one that's been going on, people don't people don't really care so much. Even though I think they were some of our better videos actually, like from a technical perspective. And
The thing about Kathy and Graham is they are standing out from the crowd and they're marketing it. And if you're looking to stand out from the crowd, Reminder Media is a resource that you have to check out. You get your own branded print and digital magazines, newsletters, and social media content. They deliver these resources to your contacts on autopilot, keeping you top of mind with your database. All you got to do is focus on your follow-up calls and watch referrals and repeat business come in. Use the link below to check out Reminder Media. That makes complete sense. People want to share content to be in the know. And if I want to share something with Jason and say, hey, this new festival's coming to San Diego, I would only share it if it was something that was brand new and not something that had already been going on for 5 years that he probably knew about it. So that's a great kind
totally.
of connection point for the audience to understand is news, new, hyper local, not just hyperlocal.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of newsletters, you have a viral carousel that you posted about a week and a half ago. And last time I looked, it had almost 7,000 likes and tons of comments that are directly correlated to your newsletter. So speak about this post a little bit.
Yeah.
It's about a foliage prediction, which I don't even really know what that
Yeah.
is, but talk about this and
Oh,
your strategy to get people into the newsletter.
Leaf peeping, right, Kathy? Yeah.
yep.
Okay.
So in our area, we're about an hour and a half away from Shenandoah Mountains, Shenandoah National Park. So it's a big thing for everybody to drive over there in the fall to see the peak foliage. And then we said, okay, let's add a hyper local twist. So people in Reston would like to go for a drive on a Saturday or a Sunday, right? It gets crowded there. But then what is the peak foliage time for Reston? It's usually a little bit different. So that's the hyper local twist. This thing has been now seen by 185,000 people.
Crazy.
Um, yeah, I didn't expect.
Let's go.
Graham keeps giving me the
And
stats. Oh my God, Kathy.
Great
it's
job.
insane. And so we added on to the end of it, both in the caption, but at the end, I think it's the last slide where it just says, "Hey, you want to stay up to date with everything in the Reston area, then comment insider." And so I have a mini chat for, it basically, what do you call it? Like a robo chatbot,
Hmm.
um, that will walk them through a workflow to gather their name and email address and put them on our list. So we have a couple of workflows for that. One is for, getting them on the newsletter. And then other times it's to get them listing details, or hopefully we'll start adding in some more lead magnet type things, and start building up the actual sort of real estate client list, so to
How
speak.
how big has the newsletter gotten primarily through this stuff?
Through this, we've added 220 people,
It's
I would
amazing.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Just
maybe
from
actually
free
more now
posts.
that with that Shenandoah thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So, and we've been doing newsletter for a long time. It hasn't been it was more general to the Northern Virginia area for a while, so we're still doing that one for our audience of people who are, looking at houses and places outside of Reston, but we've really just niched down at the beginning of the year with this strategy and said, "Okay, we gotta build that up, including the newsletter and just sort of like scaffolding for our whole approach to, like, getting them in our net and keeping them there, so to speak."
Yeah, that's the game though, right? The social brings them in, and then you can take it a little bit further in the conversation in the DMs, or if you set up a mini chat to get the DM, and then from the email newsletter is where the conversion starts to happen, right? Occasionally, we may get someone that DMs us and it's like, "Hey, I followed you, and I want to list my house," but that's rare. Oftentimes, it
Right.
takes 6 months, 12 months, 18 months getting them into your email newsletter, and then following up, twice a month on your email newsletter as well to then see the actual conversion happen. So that is the key that most people miss when they're just getting started, is they never tie it back to their newsletter, and you've started to create that channel, which is amazing. A plus.
Yeah. And Kathy is like the queen of the DMs. I mean, she is you have to love it, I think, and she loves to, like, chat with people. She'll deny it
Sometimes
much.
it's a little too much, but I do try because that's where the magic
Right.
happens. They
Correct.
have to know I'm a real person and there is somebody on the other side.
Correct. Yeah,
And
two
if
So
on two levels, right? Because it's on in the DMs, people are a lot more willing to share with you, whereas on the
Mhm.
comments of something, it's a public forum, so they may not actually say or engage in a dialogue, but in the DMs, they will. They'll jump right in and have a full
Yeah.
conversation with you and tell you about their grandma's house that they lost in probate, and
Yeah.
they'll go deeper with you in the DMs than they will in the comments. And so that's where all the magic happens, as you say. Plus, secondarily, it's social media for a reason, right? We all care,
Yeah.
and we're having a literal conversation right now in a show about the media portion of it. And
Yeah.
we're talking about all the things that you're sharing, the reels, the carousels. We're all focusing on the media, which is about 90% of what all these shows and what all these things care about and talk about.
mhm.
But the social portion of it, which is the other half of the
Yeah.
word, should be actually the 90% that we focus on, but it gets the smallest amount of time. So you taking time and replying to your comments and talking to people in the DMs, that's actually the most important thing you could possibly do, is actually keep the social conversation going or moving it offline into your email. Right? That's
I
that's
do
the
a
Yeah.
best
lot of
part.
that with the stories. And now I'm starting to, kind of like learn what people want. So I'll go out and I'll tour a house and I'm now it's the same. It's guess the list price. And I put the Jeopardy music on there and put in the different prices, and then I sometimes will show a little B-roll of what the house looks like. So now people know, oh, let me go forward and then I'll go back. And when they guess wrong, it's really a lot of fun that I get to go in there and I'm like, you're a big loser. They're like, what happened to your winning streak? Like, better luck next time.
That's
And
the
But
I
I
s
best.
I
make it
s I swear, Jason, some people come for this just to be told they're a loser. They love it. They
I think that's the best though. It's like you're creating this kind of community and engagement with the people that
yeah.
follow you. That actually brings me to a good question though, is how often do you mix in the right hook, right? As you're talking about hyperlocal, hyperlocal, hyperlocal. I mean, I do see like your team name plus compass on there. So like how
Yeah.
often are you mixing in a real estate related post or an educational post to your hyperlocal run that you have?
On the post side and like our reels and posts, we probably do an 80-20 mix, I would say. We try to every once in a while, though, it feels like you could start feeling it like, oh, it's too real estate heavy
Yep.
lately. So we had, a listing video because we had a listing we were promoting. Then we had two social or two carousel posts that happen to be listing related or what have you. And it just was like, oh my God, we got to go out there and do something like sushi place, or we got
Yeah.
to go out there quick and get something else because people are going to start turning off and thinking that we're selling to them and
Right.
that they feel duped because they're not getting the fun content that they really wanted.
Totally.
So we definitely try to keep that mix. But I would say in the stories, Kathy, you own the stories. Like, I do nothing
They're
in the
me.
stories other than share whatever we just posted.
Yeah,
Like, I'm pretty much the feed and the Reels side in terms of, like, managing it. She's commenting in there and DMing people with that. But the stories, I'm like, "You're on your own. I don't care."
yeah.
And that's where I think you sell plenty in there. Not really
Yeah.
sell, but, like, do real estate specific things in the
I
stories.
do, but then I also do fun things that I feel are fun, where if I'm in my gardening, what am I picking? What didn't grow? And then I'm very big into my community. I'm part of the YMCA, so I go kickboxing on Saturdays, and I started my friend would always have a question of the week, so I just started using that, and now it's people are like, if I'm away, they're like, "Where's the question of the week? Where's" and then
Totally.
the YMCA now has people joining because they've seen my stories.
Totally. That's the one thing that it doesn't always get talked about, but even like some of the people who have grown hyperlocal brands, Alyssa, Ken Pozek, Katie, these things like that, they start to get reached out to for like collab stuff and like, hey,
Mhm.
can you do, 3 posts for $1,000 or 3 posts for this? We'll give you free this. And it starts, and nobody watching the show, hopefully you're not getting into it to get that type of stuff, but it starts to happen because when you're just the hyperlocal influencer, the digital mayor, you start to get other businesses that notice that too, and then they're going to want to reach out and collab with you.
So you said you got 250 plus emails from these carousel posts. What sort of content are you putting in your newsletter, and what are those open rates like?
So yeah, the newsletter is we really are trying to almost scaffold this too. And we were just speaking with Jason around how we're doing like an 80-20 mix of community focused things versus or personal things versus real estate things. And I would say it's the same in the newsletter. Like the newsletter really comes off like it's a community newsletter, not necessarily a real estate newsletter. That's by design. But I will stick in like almost like it's ads to the newsletter, calls to action for different things like, oh, you want to get, better than his estimate. We'll get your rest and home, whatever. And it's like a little ad in between articles. But the articles are essentially, we do a little opening blurb that sort of summarizes the week of activities and what to expect in the newsletter. Then there'll be like the feature story, which is usually a reel. If we've done 2 reels, then we will highlight the second one as, like, around town or something like that, but, otherwise, we'll just take one of the carousels and post it in there, and then we have, like, a bunch of links to all the other news that's happening in the hyper-local area, that we don't feel like covering ourselves, but just might be interesting, and, we close out with a, like, you're from Reston when, and there's always some little thing like, "Oh, you're cursing at the driver who's cutting across Sunset Hills Road when they try to turn left on the toll road," that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And hopefully people are like, "Oh yeah, this is really cool. Like, what are they going to say at the bottom of the newsletter today?" kind of thing. In terms of open rates, we're at almost 70% open rates.
Oh my god.
Um, and then click through has been building after I started adding some of these hyperlocal links and things like that. So I think depends on how you measure it, but it's like about 4 to 6% click through, which I think is higher than usual.
Mm-hmm.
But
Way higher.
yeah,
Have you
so
thought about turning that you're in Reston when into social content also?
uh, good point. Yeah, no, we should do that. Thanks.
Yeah, it's a great
There's a lot to
series.
do.
This is why we listen, Eric. This is
Yeah. Well, I mean, if that's what people look forward to in the newsletter every single day, I would turn one of those into social content and say, to get these delivered directly to your inbox, along with all the hyper local news and everything, comment the word Reston, and I'll send you this newsletter.
Mhm.
So if
yeah.
something's working in one medium, always try to use it in another one too, just to see how the audience resonates with it.
Hmm. Love that. Love
But
that.
I love that personal touch that you add at the end of every newsletter. So it doesn't feel just like a media company pumping stuff out. It's like
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
still kind of hitting that inside joke lane that you guys do in
Yeah.
your
Right.
content.
Right. And my theory, what I'm hoping to add to the mix is so like there's always going to be this hyper local one, but then having a second newsletter that is still hyper local Reston, but now is here are the hottest listings, here are the best condos in this area, here, using what we know about the market and saying, here's 2 off-market properties, here's 4 things in North Reston versus South Reston. All these things matter to the locals. And they're not getting that from anywhere else. Zillow, any other agent in the DMV, that sort of thing. DMV is our Washington, D.C. area. And then, otherwise, because they're too broad, so the more we focus, even though we were scared to do that in the beginning, the better we're seeing the results. Because we've only got so much time.
Yeah, I would
So,
definitely tease
say-
that on your
go ahead.
original newsletter into a second newsletter once every fourth, fifth, sixth one. You would just say, hey, by the way, we have a secondary newsletter. If you're thinking
Yeah.
about making a move in Reston, follow here or sign up here. And then maybe every 25th post or story on your page, you can then tease it. So like very, very slim, then you can tease the real estate portion of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To get, because so you don't want to use the hyper local newsletter to then just throw real estate into it. But every fourth or fifth one, you could tease the other newsletter so that you get people signing up who actually do care about it.
Right.
Good one.
That's a
Yeah.
great idea. So, for people listening at home who have been struggling with content for years and they have not found the right note to hit, hyperlocal is obviously the move. Pretend you're an agent in Los Angeles. What's the first tip of advice you would give them? Like, what's the first piece of content they should make for their hyperlocal content?
I think it's got to be a community oriented, based on the news. Post about something like a new development. Those tend to hit even more than restaurants for us, actually, like new development oriented ones, and it kind of
Stirs the
connects.
pot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then those were some of the early ones that we did. I remember one where Kathy stood in front of a bunch of these ugly buildings from the 80s,
Yeah.
and these ugly buildings are about to be knocked down, and here's what's coming in this place. And that was like our second or third video, and it got, maybe let's say 8,000 views. And at that point, that was like, now we're seeing higher views than that on a lot of things. We're almost spoiled, but that was like unbelievable to us. We just couldn't believe it. So we were like, okay, let's keep doing some more of that stuff. And I think the key thing I would say to somebody is start with something like that and then replicate that until you've got it down. And it doesn't take you too long to do. And you can figure out how you could turn it over to somebody else. If you're, in the beginning, maybe you're editing it yourself. But if you don't, I highly recommend trying to get it off your plate. But there's a learning curve to like move it over to a virtual assistant or to somebody, to the college kid that you hired, that kind of thing. There's a learning curve to that, and you're going to have to nail that down, because sometimes I start getting too aggressive and we start trying to do too many things, and then we realize, wait a minute, let's just nail this down and backtrack a little bit. So that's one of the things I would say is like, nail it down, then move to the next thing, then add that. Like, you don't have to go and do carousel. We didn't do carousels for months.
Mhm.
And we tried a couple of things that deviated from our formula. They didn't really work. So we said, let's just go back to the formula.
Yeah.
The Alyssa formula. It
Yes.
works.
And people care
And Jason-
about coffee shops and cafes
Yep.
and bagels.
Definitely. And Jason, I think some other advice for people listening are, if you're not a husband-wife team, which, most people probably listening aren't, you just get another agent in your office to film you, right? Like, if we were in the same office, Jason, I could see us, caravanning, hanging out, holding hands, going to local coffee shops, filming each other. I think it'd actually be fun to do. So then it actually holds you accountable.
It'd be like
too.
a little buddy comedy, just a couple bros going
Exactly.
around, just, going to caravans. It'd be cute.
100%. So, Kathy, Graham, so happy that you have found this content journey and success in it. It's amazing. I love that it came through Alyssa, and that also watching the walkthrough has helped.
Yes.
Graham and Tracy, also like your content knowledge is so strong and superior. Like, I just love the way you're looking at each post and understanding the audio and the text hook and the movement and everything like that. Like, that is the level of detail that it takes to take all this to the next level and to get that virality. And just seeing a carousel post that hits 140,000 people, like, that's real brand awareness.
Yeah.
You know, you can't door knock that many people. You can't call that many people. We say that all the time, but 140,000 people. What's the population of where you live?
65,000 for Reston, maybe another
Okay.
50,000 in Herndon.
So you doubled it right there
Yeah.
in one single post, got people into your newsletter. They are now aware of your brand. It's just really impressive. So happy for you guys. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for coming to BAM Camp. Shoot them a follow. And Kathy and Graham, we will be following your journey for the rest of time.
Thanks for coming on, Kathy.
Thank you,
and Graham.
guys.
It was a
Thanks.
pleasure.
Thanks,
Thank you
Jason.
so much
Thanks,
for
Eric.
having us.